A major winter storm is about to unleash some of the biggest snowfall totals that we've seen all season, as a powerful winter storm is about to impact over 50 million people with feet of snow in some locations. Additionally, a huge Arctic blast will bring the return of winter next week, along with a ton of snow chances. This winter storm is going to be absolutely crazy. So, let's get right into the forecast, and let's go ahead and begin with the culprit here. It's the large winter storm that is going to be impacting tens of millions of people this weekend. This could end up being one of the biggest winter storms that we've seen in several years across areas in the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. This is what it looks like here during the daytime today. We actually do have some snow showers that are making their way across parts of Illinois, Indiana, and Kentucky. And for those that are seeing snow, you're actually going to be contributing to this big winter storm, because this right here is going to be an area of moisture that is coming from the Rockies. That's going to meet up with this area of broad low pressure that is located over the Great Lakes. We also have moisture coming out of the Gulf, and all three of these ingredients are going to lead to a very significant winter storm once we head into tomorrow. Another thing I want to point out, there will actually be some strong to severe thunderstorms today across parts of the Southeast. Damaging winds and a couple of tornadoes are possible in parts of Alabama, Georgia, and even back into South Carolina. Later this afternoon into the evening, that area of snow showers will make its way across Kentucky and Ohio, bringing a coating to maybe 1 inch of snow for those that are lucky. And then back over in the Northeast, that is when we're going to start to see a few little snow showers in areas like Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island. Once we go into the overnight hours is when the real story begins to unfold, as we are going to start to see all the ingredients come together. That means our moisture is coming out of the south. We also have that area of moisture from the Rockies making its way into Pennsylvania, and then our low pressure center is going to begin to form offshore of the Carolinas, and it's going to become very intense very quickly, because once we go into the early morning on Sunday, we are going to have a widespread and very heavy snow event happening across areas in Maryland, Virginia, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and back into New York. There will be a dividing line Sunday morning with a much larger area of just cold rain happening in Delaware and most of New Jersey. So for many of you, you're not going to see snowfall, at least to begin Sunday morning, but most of you will transition sometime after lunchtime into a pure snow. Most of the snowfall rates here right around Sunday morning will be right around 1 inch per hour. With that said, many of these areas will be dealing with snow for well over 24 hours. Which means we could easily see over a foot of snow as long as this storm system stays close enough to the coastline. It's really going to have to take a more western path, which almost every single computer model has been shifting west over the last 24 hours. That is big news for those that want big snow, because we could easily have very significant snowfall here this weekend. Once we go closer to lunchtime, that is when snowfall is going to become a lot more widespread and a lot heavier across central and northern New Jersey back into Long Island, most of Pennsylvania, Virginia, and even back into Washington, D.C. will be dealing with that heavy snowfall. Anywhere in the dark blue, very heavy snow will be ongoing. That's where 1 to 1.5 inches of snow per hour will be happening. Elsewhere, we're going to be talking about a large area of light snow. And with this storm system, our low-pressure center is just going to be so close to the coastline that we're actually going to be seeing some northwesterly winds across the Great Lakes. So to go on top of all the snow along the coastline, we will have some enhanced lake effect snow happening during the daytime on Sunday for other areas like Michigan and also even Indiana and Ohio. Once we go into Sunday evening, that is when the snow is really going to crank it up to another notch. This is when this low-pressure system is going to be rapidly intensifying into a bomb cyclone. What that means is that our pressure will be dropping by 24 millibars or more within 24 hours. So that is a big deal, because what we're going to have is also much stronger winds developing all around this low-pressure system. That is because we'll have a tighter pressure gradient. So our high pressure off to the west, low pressure system here is basically going to lead to much more significant winds, and that could lead to blizzard conditions by Sunday night in areas like Maryland, New Jersey, and all across southern New England. But just look how large this heavy area of snow is by this point. Almost all of Virginia, at least eastern Virginia, will be dealing with heavy snow. Could be even as far south as Virginia Beach. Areas like Maryland, New Jersey, and back into Pennsylvania still dealing with the heavier snowfall. And then light to moderate snowfall will be ongoing back over in areas like Boston, Massachusetts. Now, once we go a little bit further into time, this will be going into late Sunday night into early Monday. The snow is going to continue to stay very widespread as this low-pressure system continues to rapidly intensify. Notice how close this low-pressure system is to the east coast of the United States. It's just only about 50 miles offshore of Delaware, and that is why we are likely going to see significant snowfall here across areas in the Northeast. As we go into the overnight hours Sunday into early Monday morning, we are anticipating that blizzard conditions will continue pretty much anywhere in this circled area here. It's going to come down to how intensive snow is and how much snow is actually on the ground by this point. But I would anticipate that we will at least see blizzard warnings for some of our coastal regions in New Jersey, New York, and also across parts of southern New England. Light snow will continue on the backside of this across parts of Kentucky, Tennessee, Indiana, back into Ohio, but heavy snow will start to really get going if you're back over in Cape Cod. Monday morning, the winter storm here will transition away from Virginia. There will not be much snowfall left on Monday. Heavy snow will be ongoing across almost all of central and southern New England, back into New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, and even parts of New York, including Long Island, will still be dealing with heavy snow. And I've touched on snowfall rates a little bit. For the most part, though, this event will not have snowfall rates much higher than maybe 1.5 inches of snow per hour. The big reason why is because a lot of our snow will be a little bit more wet than fluffy. It's not going to be nearly as cold in these areas, so the snow will not stack up very quickly. However, it is going to be snowing for a very long period of time for most of you in Maryland and New England during the day on Sunday and Monday. And that's going to lead to possibly over a foot of snow in a widespread area. We could even see 2 to 3 feet in some locations too. Once we go into mid to late day Monday, snow will continue across most of New England. The heaviest bands will still be located near Cape Cod, Boston, back into Hartford, and also into Providence, Rhode Island. And then we'll also have some moderate snowfall across Maine and New Hampshire. Light snow will continue across Pennsylvania, including Pittsburgh and New York City. Should continue to see snow all the way through Monday evening. Most of it will be light though by this point. And then only scattered snow showers will be left over once we head into Tuesday. And then another shot of snow is coming after this Tuesday into Wednesday. We'll talk more about that here in a moment, but I want to talk more about the snowfall accumulation coming out of this winter storm. Now, there have been a lot of models here that have been uptrending on a pretty significant major winter storm here across the Northeast. This right here is the National Weather Service blend of models. This is the first time I've seen something like this in a long time, especially for the Northeast. And with this model, it's not typically on the aggressive side. I honestly think this might be a little aggressive. But notice that this model here is showing a widespread 1+ feet of snow across most of New England, and then even back into parts of the mid-Atlantic, so Maryland, back into New Jersey, showing basically over 10 inches of snow in this entire area. This is what I'm talking about when we could have a really significant winter storm here tomorrow across the Northeast. However, this is not necessarily guaranteed to happen. I want to touch on that because this is obviously one model run. If we see a shift to the east with the storm track for whatever reason during the daytime today, it could really drop totals significantly. So this would be if the storm system stays close enough to the coastline. We could be talking about a blockbuster winter storm. And again, there could even be some locations here that pick up over 2 feet of snowfall. It's entirely possible. I don't want to put too much confidence though into this yet, because there could be some changes to the forecast over the next 24 hours, which is why we may have another video later today. But areas like Boston, Massachusetts, again, New York City back into Maryland could easily see around 15 to 20 inches of snow if this storm does take the right track. I do think Cape Cod will get hit very hard as well. And to top that off, the wind gusts could easily exceed 60 to 70 mph, especially near the coastal regions like Cape Cod, Nantucket, and back into parts of New Jersey. So, this is going to be a pretty significant winter storm, I think. But this here is the National Weather Service forecast, which they are being a lot more conservative right now. And one of the biggest reasons why is because, again, we don't exactly know if this low-pressure system is going to track that close to the coast. It is a very tough call right now. And it's mostly because we don't have a low-pressure center that is even formed yet. So until this low-pressure center forms offshore, which won't happen until tomorrow morning, it's very difficult to forecast. But I do think as the model data comes out throughout the daytime today, we should have much better and much more refined numbers here in terms of snowfall accumulation across the Northeast. But overall, again, I would at least anticipate here a widespread 8 to 12 inches of snow. If you're in Long Island, southern New England, and also back into New Jersey, I think Maryland is going to be higher than 5 to 6 inches for the record. I think this is a very low number right now. I think most of Maryland will pick up at least around 8 to 12 inches out of this event. Southern Maine will likely be around 8 to 12 at least. Again, I'm giving you kind of conservative ranges here, but I do think those numbers will increase here throughout the daytime today. And one of the biggest concerns with this storm is that it could end up being a blizzard for over 10 million people. This is what the wind gusts look like by Sunday night. Widespread winds over 35 to 45 mph. And then eventually, as we go into the overnight hours into early Monday morning, the GFS model has a very intense area of wind all across Long Island, southern New England, back into Nantucket. If this again happens, we could be talking about some numerous power outages in some of these locations. So definitely make sure that you have those plans ready to go. I know many of you across the Northeast haven't really seen something like this in quite some time. If you've lived in New England for over 10 or 15 years, you're probably used to having some big winter storms, at least over 5 to 10 years ago, that did knock out power. This could be one of those. So, I would at least be getting ready to make sure that you are prepared here for a possible power outage event here across southern New England. Generators ready to go. Flashlights. Make sure that you have your phones charged up. All that good stuff just in case, because the winds will be very intense overnight Sunday into early Monday morning. And then during the daytime on Monday, blizzard conditions should continue across Cape Cod and also Nantucket. And once we get beyond this winter storm, we will have another shot of snow as we go into Tuesday and Wednesday across the Great Lakes and the Northeast. This one's a little bit uncertain, but it will be an Alberta clipper. So, not the same type of winter storm that we're talking about here over the next couple of days, but we are expecting at least a few inches of snow out of this event. It's uncertain where exactly the heaviest snow will set up, so stay tuned for the latest details on that. We'll continue to keep you posted with anything that changes there. And then by the tail end of next week, sometime around Thursday and Friday, we could have a large storm that tries to form across the Ohio Valley and the Southeast, maybe with some severe weather, but definitely talking about another possibility of snow. And then once we go into next weekend, right around the beginning of March, we don't really know what's going to happen here, but I am at least seeing some signals of Arctic air. You heard that right. And in fact, we actually have several Arctic blasts that are coming here to the country over the next several days. The first one is going to arrive tomorrow and into Monday. We are expecting temperatures to drop by as much as really 30 to 50 degrees here across the Southeast. Things will be very cold across Florida and really anywhere across the Southeast as we go into Monday. Many areas below freezing in Alabama and Georgia by this point. That cold air will drape across the East Coast through Tuesday and early Wednesday. By Wednesday and Thursday, that Alberta clipper will make its way in. We're not really expecting an Arctic blast out of that, but there could be some colder air across the Northeast and the Great Lakes by then. And then for the first few days of March, we are seeing signals that we could have an Arctic blast on our hands. We don't really know, though, how far south this thing is going to go. It could go much further south than what the GFS model here is showing, but at least for right now, the Midwest and the Northern Plains definitely have an alert here that we could be dealing with some very cold air once we begin March. And then beyond this, things become a lot more uncertain. But again, we're not too far away from severe weather season. The magnitude of this winter storm represents a convergence of meteorological factors that create conditions particularly favorable for significant snowfall accumulation across a large geographic area. The combination of Gulf moisture, Rocky Mountain moisture, and Great Lakes low pressure creates a triple threat that meteorologists recognize as having the potential for major winter weather impacts when all elements align properly. What makes this storm system especially noteworthy is the predicted westward track shift that multiple computer models have been showing over the past 24 hours. This westward trend is crucial because it determines whether the storm stays close enough to the coastline to produce the heavy snowfall rates and extended duration needed for the predicted accumulation totals. The rapid intensification into bomb cyclone status adds another layer of complexity and danger to this event, as the dramatic pressure drops create much stronger winds that can combine with heavy snowfall to produce true blizzard conditions across densely populated areas of the Northeast Corridor.